Welcome back. I hope you're having a wonderful Labor Day weekend.
Because I know we are up north.
That's right. And I know I am because I'm eating hot dogs, and that's what I do best.
Eating?
Eating, yeah, I do that well.
And I know I know you have a few libations
that's
in
right.
you as well.
That's right, I do. And
that's what you do best, other than helping people with their IRS problems.
You are exactly correct, Debbie. You are
Second to none.
That is correct. That is what I do best. That is my passion.
What is it? Second only to
Jay Giles. Love that Jay Giles band. He's the guy who could play the harmonica. Anyway, it's true.
Go tell Veronica.
Is that the dreidel? Is that the dreidel song? Okay.
No, it's not the dreidel. That's a Hanukkah song.
Well, the Hanukkah song. Isn't it? Okay, whatever.
No, regardless.
Where are we now?
It's the blog.
It's the blog segment. The blog. The blog.
I just have to sit back and think about how amazing it is. And I always forget, like, we're so good at opening the show. And then everything else just kind of is like,
no, you're really good at it, Jim.
For me.
So
me, I'm just saying. Nobody else is.
I hear you. So this is what, I wrote this blog this week because as we do a lot of tax returns in my office, as you might suspect. And so I have a lot of people, and a lot of times I have people who have exes, they've been divorced and or been separated or had children out of wedlock, and so the child lives with one, and the other one, parent A, let's call parent A, the child lives with parent A. Parent B pays child support, and parent B says, well, I'm paying you child support. I should get the deduction, because this deduction could be thousands and thousands of dollars, a child deduction.
Thousands of them.
Because not only can you, they call it a qualifying child. And to be a qualifying child, there's lots of IRS.
I never qualified for anything.
Actually, you did. You were
qualified to get good.
You were a qualified child for your dad to take a deduction. Okay, because you get one for every child. You get a deduction for every child, and because it could make a big difference in your taxes, how much you're going to pay in your taxes, you might imagine there's a big fight about it every year. And, so when people get divorced or they get separated or they have a child custody agreement or something like that, most of the time they try to address it in that agreement. They'll try to say, okay, now you take a deduction on the even years and I'll take the deduction on the odd years. And it kind of goes that way. But often, as you might suspect, there's not a lot of, cooperation amongst the parties. Okay, so this happens. So even though they've agreed, you're going to take it on the even and I'm going to take it on the odd, oftentimes the other party will take it on every year. They'll take it every year. And what they usually, when the person's not supposed to take it, what they'll do is they'll file it in January, right? As soon as it comes in, they get their tax returns.
I have a follow-up question.
Go ahead.
Isn't the IRS ever suspicious when someone files with a child one year and not the next year? Well, or do they know that some people who are divorced do that?
They do that, but they do know that they do that, and they're not following it because they do track it, though. Everything's tracked by the government, and you're right about that. But also, sometimes they get the age of majority, and then you can't take them anymore, so they'll be off your tax return. But you're right. They do know that it switches from one to the other. And because how do they know? Because you have to include their Social Security number. The child's Social Security number has to be there. And if it appears on two different tax returns on the same year, that's when you have a problem. Okay, so what happens is, again, the person that knows they're not supposed to have it, they run out in January and they file it, and then they get their refund. And then the person who was supposed to have it files their tax returns, and then it gets bounced back. And the IRS says, and they get what they call a notice of deficiency. You don't get this. Somebody else has already grabbed it. And then there's some sort of, you have to prove it. You have to prove who who is entitled to it. And this is where it kind of gets interesting because, again, as I mentioned, most people will have it in a divorce decree or a custodial agreement or a separation agreement or some sort of an agreement, and they'll spell this stuff out. And if it's before 2009, so 2008 and before, I think it's 1994, if that agreement is for that period of time, all you have to do on your tax return is attach that agreement to your tax return and send it in. And then because you're showing that I'm entitled to it. So if she takes it, she or he, because it could be either one, if they take it, if the other party takes it and they're not entitled to it, and I've attached the agreement to show, hey, I'm entitled to it, then I won't get this notice of deficiency. So people usually don't do that, and then they have to go back and prove it to the IRS. But now if it's after 2008 and I have an agreement, and I could have this agreement could be spelled out, I have to attach a form to the IRS. Guess what? The IRS has forms for everything, right?
There's a form to get the form request of the right form.
Exactly, and that's not too far from the truth. But this is form 8332, and 8332 is a form where I have to Okay, first let me tell you this: usually the party who has custodial is the custodial parent. They're entitled to the deduction. So wherever the child lives, spends most nights. That's the parent that gets
the streets. If you have homie.
If you have joint custody and this child spends 4 nights with one parent and 3 nights with another, and that's common, right? Because the parent will the non-custodial parent will pick the kid up on Friday after school, and they'll spend Saturday, Sunday, Monday with the child, and they'll bring him to school on Monday morning. And so they get 3 days, and whoever has the 4 days, they're going to get the deduction. They have custodial unless they sign this agreement. This form 8332. And then you can waive it and say, oh, no, I know I'm entitled to it, but I'm going to give it to him now you can see where this could get.
This is starting to get my head is spinning.
Yes, I understand it gets complicated, but you can see where this could have a problem. Because if the two parents aren't cooperating with one another, and that's not unusual. Well,
to be loved by anyone?
That's right, Tom Jones. You didn't even know that was Tom Jones, did you? But anyway, it's not unusual that there's not cooperation. And if they don't have cooperation, so now with this form, and again, it used to be if I could show the divorce decree, I'm entitled to it. I don't have to fight with her about it or him about it. We've already agreed. Now, with this form, the IRS has taken sides, and they say the custodial parent gets that deduction unless they voluntarily waive it. And even if I voluntarily waive it and I have an agreement, a divorce decree or a separation agreement or one of these other things, even if I wrote it in there, and even if I gave them an 8332, and that covered a bunch of years, I can simply send in another 8332 and revoke it. I'm revoking it. And the other party won't even know it. Now, I'm supposed to send them a notice, and I'm supposed to try to get in touch with them, but I can revoke it at any time. So So the IRS doesn't care what the courts say. The custodial parent is the one that's really entitled to it. So then you have a fight. Where does the kid stay? And you have to prove it. Now, if you are the custodial parent, probably be pretty easy for you to prove that you're the one that the kid spends time with. I go to school records, I go to the doctor, I go all and that's where his address is or her address or the kid's address is, and that's how I can prove. But it does go to court a lot to try to prove where the kid stayed. If it's close, then it's whoever has the highest income gets to take if they spent even numbers then whoever has the highest income, they get the deduction. And so it's complicated. Again, this is the most common question I get. And I'm not a tax preparer, but I have some really qualified tax preparers who work for me.
Don't you do a deal where you'll do the taxes for somebody?
I generally will do your next year's taxes. Sometimes I have this on my ad, and I'm going to make it out there. Thanks, Jim, because I'm going to make it available to you. If you call me and you have an IRS problem, and you hire me, I'll do your next year's tax return for free. I'll do it. And if you want us to do your tax returns, I will give you half price for the first year.
That's perfect.
We do have an IRS protection plan, and call me and we'll talk about it. But we will do your tax return, even if you don't have an IRS.
Ladies and gentlemen, how can you pass up that offer? Remember, Opem Tax Resolution is there to help the local Chicago families and the local. Well,
and business. That's true.
Of course, businesses. So, ladies and gentlemen, 312-664-6649 or visit ChicagoTaxTeam.com. Your hub to fight the IRS. Now, ladies and gentlemen, stay tuned because after the commercial break, more IRS Radio Hour is coming at you on AM 560.
The Answer.